Hey y'all, and welcome to Politburo. My name is Brian, and Jesse Waters makes Jessica Tarlov regret ever opening her mouth on this subject. This might be Tarlov at her absolute worst on the five. Let's dive in.
To me, this deserves some sort of punishment of some form. I don't know, in their ethics rules or whatever. She slandered this guy, and she said, "Oh, I just didn't have time to check it out. Sorry, no time to fact check."
So I live in abject fear, Jesse in less abject fear than I do, of defamation constantly, right? You go out here, you have this huge bully pulpit, right? This opportunity to talk to millions of people, and you better get your language right, especially when you are talking about a pedophile. That's why it has to be an alleged pedophile if someone hasn't been convicted of something. And if you're then talking about someone who may have been in cahoots with a sex trafficker and pedophile, you should also probably get that right. So I don't know about the rules on the floor about this. And, there's been back and forth even this week within the Democratic Party about, sanctioning or whatever the process would be for the retiring Democrat who gave his chief of staff his seat. Anyway, I expected it was a mistake because clearly we're talking about that Jeffrey Epstein when you're making the case. If you're talking about the NRCC and Rick Lazio, you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. So I don't think that was well handled. This narrative, though, that the Dems are on defense and this is going to just turn into a problem for us, it just doesn't work. I thought Chris Murphy handled it really well this morning. He was on with John Berman, and John asked him, what happens if you see more links between Jeffrey Epstein and the Democratic Party? And he goes, so what? Let the chips fall where they may. That is the point of this list coming out, that it's about giving closure to the survivors and the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and this cabal, and that there are some people who don't deserve to be in public life anymore. And you see what's going on with Larry Summers, and that, that's fast moving. And it's going to be a lot more people who are Washington folks and also Wall Street folks.
But Jesse, as Jessica's talking, I just keep thinking about the fact that if Democrats felt so strongly about this, they've had 4 years. They didn't pursue any of this.
It was because of the open investigation.
Sure.
Okay, well, that's what Trump's going to use now, by the way.
Okay.
All right.
All your predictions are wrong.
That's not true.
It is. I'll take it from here. My staff did the research that her staff did, and we did it in less than 25 minutes. And Romney, Bush, the NRCC, WinRed, no one took Epstein money. It checks out. She's dumb. She knows her staff is dumb. That's why she gave herself an out. So she lied. And only in politics can you lie and get away with it. Actually, the better liar you are, the farther you go. Look at Schiff. He lied about Trump, and now he got a promotion to a senator. Look at Newsom, Clinton, all these. Blumenthal said he served in Vietnam. He never even been in the country, and he's still in the Senate. So they had what they thought Trump dead to rights, and now everyone's collateral damage. Stacey from the not-so-Virgin Islands. You have Hakeem soliciting cash and dinner invitations. You have Crockett now and Summers. And there's going to be more. And here's why, Jessica. Now they're putting out flight manifests in 30 days. They're putting out all of the FBI and DOJ investigative documentation. Now, Donald Trump cut him loose in 2004. All of this documentation that's going to come out is going to be from 2008, when the first charges were filed, to 2019, when the second charges were filed. Everything in between that decade, all he's doing, Jessica, is hanging out with Democrats. That's all he's doing. He's not donating to Republicans. He's not hanging out with Republicans. So it doesn't even matter if you guys did or did not get massages, did or did not hang out with sex traffic minors. Doesn't even matter. The mere allegation that's going to come out in these documents is going to ruin people's lives. And I'm sorry, you pushed this. Trump was trying to be a gentleman, and he was going to say a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined. A lot of people will have their reputations destroyed from innuendo. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it's going to happen. Now, you're right about J.P. Morgan. This is out, and it's huge. So J.P. Morgan filed 5,000 suspicious activity reports on Epstein. $1 billion in suspicious financial wires from Jeffrey Epstein, that either one or two things is true. He is either at the center of an international sexual blackmail ring, or he's a money launderer. And JP Morgan covered it up. And the Treasury Department's covered it up because they get those reports. That's what this has always been about.
At this point, I'm genuinely shocked that Jessica Tarlov has any basis in reality. I think so many Democrats live in fantasy land, and I ain't talking about at the Magic Kingdom. They believe things that aren't so, and now as the slow drip is coming out, turns out that Stacey Plaskett was receiving extra information directly from Jeffrey during a committee meeting in order to give her an extra edge. That is like not a witness. That's like a judge or a juror getting special information that the rest of the court isn't allowed to see. Okay? That is a literal perversion of justice. Stacey Plaskett, Democrat. Hakeem Jeffries begged Epstein for money. Begged. Then who else did Jesse list here? There's another big one the whole Jasmine Crockett charade. Turns out Jasmine Crockett started accusing people of getting money from Jeffrey Epstein, and it turned out that, it was a completely different person. And she gets some plausible deniability for this. We have reached an endpoint where there is no such thing as plausible deniability anymore with an entire political party. This is not sustainable. And Jessica Tarlov is sitting there with this deer in headlights look because she's smart enough to know that, there are certain laws that if you don't say things the right way, they're accusatory, and then you can be sued for it. You could be sued for slander. You could be sued for libel. And instead of recognizing the gravity of the entire situation, she steps in quicksand when a literal sign has been posted saying, "Don't say stupid things, don't step into quicksand." Well, now they're sinking. Jesse is right. The sheer lack of Republicans that are on this list, at least to my knowledge, is incredibly telling. Particularly when Trump decided to run for office. All of a sudden, you had the people on the list screaming. Because you're not supposed to do that. You aren't supposed to betray the group. This is such a wild story, and it's hard to cover properly. It really is. So I think the best way to put it is that I think Trump has actually handled it better than we thought. He was catching a lot of heat. He and his Attorney General Pam Bondi were catching a lot of flack for the way they've handled this whole case. Now it turns out, that's why you've been stalling on this. It's for the same reason that he campaigned on lock her up back in 2016, and he didn't make any moves on Hillary. He's made no moves on Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, there's a great story that has been running around DC circles for about 4 years now. That when President Trump left office, he wrote a special note directly to Joe Biden. No one knows what's on that note except him and Biden. But there's been speculation. The rumor is that if I win the next election, I will not come after you. So that's been the scuttlebutt. So in other words, Trump has now had 3 occasions to go after people and has refused out of sportsmanship. We're living in a world where Donald Trump is the good sport. We're living in a world where he's the good Samaritan. This should not be happening, but it is. And I'm kind of glad that we're here for it. Meanwhile, Tarlov has realized that, we're in trouble. And instead of apologizing and saying, you know what, I might have gotten this one wrong, I might need to start criticizing my side, she has no clue that Plaskett has been implicated, that Hakeem Jeffries has been implicated, that Jasmine Crockett has been implicated. 3 high-level, high-tier Democrats. And Stacey Plaskett, while she doesn't have a lot of power in Congress, she has an unusual weight when it comes to rhetoric. And so you've got three fairly high-level Democrats all being implicated at the exact same time on what they thought was going to be an easy dunk on the president. At a certain point, people like Jessica Tarlov need to look in the mirror and need to ask themselves some basic questions. Am I grounded in reality? Am I talking about the right things? Am I criticizing the right people? So far, the answer to all three of those questions has been no. Okay? And as someone whose mind wanders a lot, I kind of understand that. But it's time to come back to earth. It is time to admit you've screwed up. And it's time to ask, what can I do? And move forward from that. Meanwhile, the rest of the five is just wondering. I think they're just wondering at this point, how long can they stand this? Because Tarlov has gotten, I think, crazier throughout the entire year. She's always been left of center, a little bit, not too difficult to deal with, but never really admitting the truth about her own side. And it's getting worse. And we're seeing this more and more pretty much across the board when it comes to the Democrat Party. It is an absolute travesty that we have an entire political party that's living in Fantasyland. And they're probably not even going to meet Mickey Mouse. That was a bad joke. I apologize for that one. But seriously, I don't know how long she can last on the five. Particularly with guys like Greg Gutfeld, who isn't even in this video, but you know that he would have taken this on even funnier. But Jesse Waters is 100% correct. So, Tarlov, bless your heart. I don't know what else to say. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.